All these days, we've been taking a look at this inward journey and how this rare person performs the extraordinary feat of turning his or her attention within. And then that is followed by a tireless search for the truth and the ultimate discovery of that divinity within. The Shastras, the masters, have described it as a bee that goes searching for the honey everywhere, for the nectar. And it's restless. Have you seen a bee go? It flits from one place to another. It's restless. It's in a state of agitation until it gets to the bottom of the flower. It gets to the nectar, and then there is peace, shanti. Its search stops. And this is what it is with all of us. We're all looking, we're in a restless state, we're in an agitated state, we're in a distracted state, and we're looking for this nectar all over the place. It never occurs to us that it is within us. And when a person, that rare person, Kaschit Dhira, the heroic person, heroic because you have to go against the tide. Everyone is rushing outward. That rare person, it's heroic because you have to stand alone and turn inward, but you find it ultimately. Never mind finding the ultimate thing. Just the turn within gives you so much relief. Try it. As we said earlier, whenever anything agitates you, you have a tendency to look outside, blame somebody or someone or something for it. If you have no one to blame, you blame your spouse. But it takes rare courage to look within and say, maybe, just maybe, I may have gone wrong. And the suspicion that you may have gone wrong gives so much peace. Never mind finding the truth. So, yesterday we looked at food for the heart and soul, nutrition, nourishment for your inner personality, which comes from three things. Number one, acting in a spirit of giving, just the attitude of giving. And today we'll take a look at the emotional food, which is love rather than hatred, oneness rather than separateness, and knowledge, which is focusing on that which remains, which is permanent, which sustains, rather than the impermanent which comes and goes. So, let's first take a look at love. What we pass off as love is nothing but attachment. Attachment means it's conditional love. Your love is conditional to a certain return that you are expecting from the person. Now, that expectation may be justified or unjustified. That's a different thing. But there are conditions, there are expectations, there are demands from the other person. And so, all the time, you want the other person to cater to you. So who are you loving in the end? Are you loving the other person? No. Who are you loving? Yourself. And that has its horrible repercussions, because the other person then resists it, gets put off. Nobody likes curbs being put on you. You know, even a child, the moment you tell the child that you are expected to do this, even if otherwise the child would have done it, now that he knows you're expecting him to do it, he will not do it. And it's the same thing with human beings. The moment you put down expectations, you must do this for me. You must wish me on my birthday. You must take me out on our anniversary. You must do this. The person does not feel like doing it. But they don't have the courage to say, no, I will not. So they do it. They go through the motions. But there is no heart behind it. Is that what you want? Something we need to ask ourselves. It's all about me. It's all about I, me, myself. And so relationships end even before they've begun. Once in your life, just once, stretch, think beyond yourself. Think about someone, anyone, doesn't matter who it is. Once you get the taste of it, it's like a tiger tasting blood. You will never go back to this selfish, stupid attachment that we are all suffering from. And as a result of this attachment, as a result of this obsession with just I, me, myself, we take people for granted. We don't even understand what they're doing for us. That's the tragedy. And then, in the end, like Swami Ramatirtha says, beware of attachment. Because there are two things that will happen for certain. One, the relationship will get all messed up, will result in conflict and stress. And number two, you will lose the object of attachment, either object or person. 100% you will lose. So if you don't want to lose the person that you are attached to, for heaven's sake, give up this selfishness. It's frightening. Bhayavaha. It's just the thought of it is frightening. And yet we are all in it. We are drowning in that attachment. So what is love? Love is accord rather than discord. So whenever something goes wrong in your relationships with people, please understand there's only one reason for that, and that is your attachment. Somewhere down the line there is attachment. Let go of it, you'll be fine. So how must you change this? Understand the person for what he or she is. Accept the person for what he or she is. Who on earth has given you the authority to pass judgment on others and to say, oh, this is your fault, this is your fault? As if to say everything is right about us. Accept the person for what he or she is. And then you know what will happen? Miraculously, his faults will stop irritating you. Her faults will stop getting to you. Then what will happen? You'll enjoy it. You'll actually be amused by it. You will thoroughly love the person with the faults. Again, experiment with it. Try it out. Go back home, and if you see your, whatever the relationship is, husband, wife, brother, sister, even servant, driver, just learn, understand the person as he is. Accept, and then you'll be most amused by his idiosyncrasies and faults, which used to irritate you earlier. Attachment is all about me. Love is about you. When you learn this fantastic art of just setting aside your personal interests and desires and reaching out to other people, that's what love is about. Then, opponents become partners. Competitors become your, what do you call it? Collaborators. That's it. That's the word. And then, magically, drudgery becomes revelry. You know, all of us are performing drudgery. Our life is one long drudgery because of this sense of separateness. The moment you learn to connect with people, like this morning somebody came rushing in and said, I have a conference call. And then it occurred to me, yes, this feeling of oneness is about having conference calls with people. Not one-on-one, conference calls. You immediately connect with more people. That is what love is. And then you are happy. Again, this is a law. The more attached you are, the more miserable you become. The more insecure you become. Because then you want the whole world to cater to you, which will never ever happen. The world cannot cater to only one person. The sensible thing is to understand there are 8 billion people in the world. Who will the world cater to? Not to talk about other creatures. So what is difficult for us, what is unhappy for us, is tremendously joyful for another creature. For instance, when you see a body of water that is stagnant, where it came in the papers today, the tires are a breeding ground for mosquitoes. That is bliss for the mosquito. It may be miserable for you. But who says that the world is created only for you and me? The world is created also for the mosquitoes. This doesn't mean you start breeding mosquitoes. And then as you begin to connect with more and more people, this love becomes devotion. And that devotion gets a fabulous result, has a fabulous result for you. What happens is what we need to see with the Ishavasya Upanishad. Mantras 6 and 7 bring this across.
Yastu sarvani bhutanyatmanyeva-nupashyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate yasmin sarvani bhutanyatmaiva bhudvijanataha tatra ko moha kashoka ekatvamanupashyataha.
Mantra 6 says, one who sees all beings in the self and the self in all beings does not hate. Na vijugupsate. That is the first relief that you feel. The moment you are free from this sense of hatred, vijugupsa is revulsion, repulsion, disgust that we experience for every other person. You may say, oh, of course I don't. Take a look at what you feel when you set out for work every morning and when there is traffic. Every other motorist on the road you have a disgust for. Right? Every other motorist becomes your competitor. The more cars you see, the more disgusted you get. This is the hatred, vijugupsa, that we feel. And it is this vijugupsa that keeps us down. The moment you begin to see the oneness, more cars you see, the more excited you become. Why? That many more people whom you love are on the roads. You know, that relief that you feel when a person reaches that state of universal love, it says, like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa had reached that state of God intoxication. He is intoxicated with this feeling of oneness. And everyone else thought he was mad. So one of his several gurus, Bhairavi Brahmani, said, don't worry about these people. They think you are mad. The fact is, they are all mad. Everybody is going mad after money, after power, after this, that and the other. And that madness you don't consider mad because you are also mad. It's a lunatic, in a lunatic asylum. All the inmates think everyone else is normal. All the other lunatics are normal. Only the normal person they think is mad. So the Ramakrishna Paramahansa's guru tells him that this is the best way of madness. Keep it. Don't let go of it. What he means, what she meant by madness, Bhairavi is a lady. When you're free from it, you're not weighed down by this sense of otherness and separateness. That lightheartedness that you feel manifests as cheer, mischief. It's intoxicating, that feeling. And that is what Ramakrishna Paramahamsa felt. That's what you and I need to give ourselves a chance to feel. When you open your eyes and see other creatures around, you should feel that intoxication. And then Mantra 7 says, to the wise one, all beings have become the self. Then, tatra ko moha kashoka ekatvam anupashyati. To the person who sees oneness, where is the shoka, where is the sorrow, where is the moha, delusion? Now let's face it, all of us are suffering from these three. We are suffering from sorrow, we are suffering from hatred, we are suffering from delusion. How to get out of it is just feel one. And the irony is that you suffer the most. So this is what sharing and caring is about. The moment you feel a sense of togetherness, this drudgery that life has become for us suddenly becomes an experience of revelry. So this is, now what happens is when your mind becomes pure, a pure mind is one that is free from this sense of separateness, hatred, selfishness, so on and so forth. When that mind becomes pure, it automatically becomes concentrated on the higher. It goes upward and inward and becomes meditative. Then you give the mind a fixation of a mantra, and that mind is capable of getting to realization. As long as you are entertaining feelings of separateness, you cannot meditate. So forget it. First, the pre-meditative practices are these. Number one, develop a feeling of giving. Somebody asked the other day in this class at Prempuri Ashram, we feel like giving. We want to give to Vedanta, the cause of Vedanta, so on and so forth. But how much to give? So I asked her, you have a daughter, right? Do you ever go and ask somebody else, how much should I give to my daughter on her birthday? How much should I spend on her wedding? How much should I give her when she goes on a vacation? You never ask that. Why don't you ask that? Because your heart is overflowing with the thought of giving. You're waiting for an opportunity to give to your own children. Right? Then why do you ask, how much do I give to the cause? Because really, you don't want to give. That's why you're asking. So that somebody puts a cap on how much you to give. So if somebody says, you don't need to give at all, oh, thank you. That's what it is. And the second thing that gets your mind meditative is this feeling of oneness. So devotion is not just swearing love to God. Devotion is removing hatred. How do you begin with bhakti? Go back home and pick on the one person who really gets to you. One person in your life you have. Each one has. Already I see smiles. Already you're thinking of one person. I can't stand the thought of that person. Pick on that one person. And try and change that. Change the hatred. Your brother-in-law. Pick on him and say, how do I change this hatred to love? You know why I said that? Because there's one person here whose weak spot is the brother-in-law. All of us have somebody or the other. And you feel, the moment you overcome that hatred, you feel so triumphant. You feel like a king. And the best part is, that one knot that is released makes a huge difference to your relationship with the people you love most. You believe, oh, that's one little thing. As long as I hate that person, it's okay. As long as I love others. You don't realize that one hatred impacts on everything. So do that and see how it works. Next is knowledge. What kind of knowledge? Not knowledge of the Gita, not knowledge of the Upanishads, not knowledge of the Vedas, but knowledge of what? Shankaracharya says, Nitya, Anitya, Viveka, Vicharam. Constant